All right. Here we go. Let's do it. Let's do it. You know what time it is? Let's do it. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Get our podcast going. Good morning. Good morning. How are you guys doing? It is time. It's 9 a.m. So you know what that means. What do we do at 9 a.m.? What do we do at 9 a.m.? I'll tell you what we do at 9 a.m. We go live. We go live for some story time at 9 a.m. So good morning. Hope you guys are doing good. Just going to share the stream around the interwebs real quick. No big deal. Just got to share the stream. If you're just joining, good morning. Go ahead and share the stream. Share it to any other pages you may have. Maybe you have another Facebook page. Maybe you have another Facebook profile. Maybe you have another friend that you want to share it with. On Facebook, whoever you have that you want to share it with, go ahead and share it. Share it, share it, share it. Let's get everybody awake for some story time. If you're out on the West Coast, then good morning, West Coast. Good morning, West Coast peeps. Like inhaled a gnat this morning. He was flying through the air. Was letting the dogs out. He flew right into my mouth. Now he's somewhere in there, so sorry about that. So we're just getting all of our streams going. Hope you guys are doing good. It's story time. It's looking like it's episode number 13, which is kind of interesting, kind of awesome. 13 hardcore episodes of story time in the books. 13 hardcore episodes of story time that I've been able to share with you guys. 13 hardcore episodes. Been coming to you live Monday through Friday. 13 hardcore episodes. All right, I'm going to get our Instagram going, and then we're going to get started. Hope you guys are feeling good out there. Hope you're feeling healthy. Hope you're feeling healthy. Hope you're feeling safe. If this is your first time joining me with story time, or this is your first time stopping by story time, welcome to Story Time with Sunny D. This is where I come to you guys Monday through Friday mornings. I've been doing this every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Coming to you and just sharing with you guys some stories. I'm sharing with you guys just some experiences. You know, a lot of these are experiences, different experiences that I've had in the beauty industry, different experiences that I've had within my own career. And I've been sharing with you stories, and where we're coming to you from, these stories are coming to you from the one of two books. The YFY book series is something that I started a couple of years ago when I was really, I was sitting and I was thinking back to like my time when I was going through beauty school. And as I was going through beauty school, I was wondering, what it was going to be like when I finished, what it was going to be like when I got out of beauty school. Was I going to make it? Was I going to fall flat on my face? Was I going to, crash and burn? I didn't know really what was going to happen. And a few years back, now being in the beauty industry for 15 years, graduating from, Paul Mitchell 2005, starting my own company in 2009, and then building that up over the last 10 years. I know, and I knew at that point I've accumulated some experiences, and I wanted to start sharing those, because I thought back to me in hair school. I thought back to me in beauty school, and I was like, man, what didn't I know? What was I afraid of? And that's where the whole YFY thing started. YFY stands for your first year in. So there's 2 different books that I've been reading from. So the first 10 episodes I read through Your First Year in the Beauty Industry, how to not just survive but thrive in the business of beauty. And now, since we're still quarantined together, we're keeping story time going. And now I'm reading from Your First Year in Salon Ownership. So this is really going to be for those people that are, maybe they've had some success in their beginnings of their beauty career, and now they're thinking about what's next. They're thinking about where they can go next, where they can go with their career, what other things are out there. Well, naturally, for me, the progression was graduating from beauty school, getting a job in a salon. Then I got into education right away, started educating, did the whole platform artist, and, started teaching and traveling. And I still do that. And once I started doing that, then I was looking around and thinking, what else could I do? And out of really frustration, I would say, which I shared with you guys a little bit in the first couple of episodes of the second round of Storytime, it was really out of some frustrations and some realizations that I could do more. I could do more, and I wanted to do more. And all I had to do was get over my own fear, which I talked a lot about yesterday. And just in the last couple of episodes, really fear, that false evidence appearing real, that whatever that is holding you back from taking that next step and giving it a shot and going for it. And even though you're scared to death, you do it anyway. Even though you're scared to death, you take a shot and go for it. And that's kind of where I got to. And then in 2008, I started the process. In 2009, I actually, I say is when the company started, but the process started in 2008. So there was a year where I was just kind of wandering and trying to figure it out and failing and losing all my money and savings and everything that I had, going after this vision and this dream of building a company. And then finally in 2009, had some success with the first location, really getting established. And then over the last 10 years, building that up to multiple locations in a couple different states. And it's been a wild ride. It's gotten very interesting in the last, month, going on a month and a half, because all of my businesses have been shut down. Like most of you guys, if you're listening on the podcast, you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, we've been under this coronavirus, this quarantine for the last, month and a half for some, maybe a little bit less for others. And maybe some of you are still working. But with all my businesses being shut down, I've really had to adjust my thinking, adjust my approach, adjust my financial picture, my outlook, my everything. And really kind of get ready for what's coming. And what's coming, I'm not Nostradamus. I don't know exactly what's coming, but I can tell you this, it's going to be different than what was. Going back to work is something that we all want to do in a big way. All of my salons, we're itching, we're ready, we're biting, chomping at the bit, ready to get back to work. I'm ready to get back to doing what we do, being hairstylist, ready to get back to, being in the salons, ready to get back to being creative, ready to get back. And so while we're waiting and itching and biting and hoping we want to get back, we're also understanding. And that's a big thing. If you're going to set out on a mission, you have to understand that most of the time, your first plan, your first plan of attack isn't going to work. And that's something that I took away from the military that I still know rings true today. In every venture and every thing that I've ever set out to do, most of the time, plan A is about, it's worth as much as the paper or the whiteboard or the computer or the Excel sheet that it's written on. It's not worth much. Plan B, worth a little more, but probably not the plan that's going to be the one. It's not usually until you get into like plan C, plan D, plan E, and plan F that you really start to find out what's going to work. And so for a lot of us, if you were on plan A going into Corona, you're definitely off of that plan now. You've definitely realized, oh, I'm going to have to scrap that plan because that plan ain't working. And now maybe you're moving into plan B, maybe you're on plan C. My entire life has always been a plan C, D, and on. Those have always been the plans that have usually played out. Those have always been the plans for whatever reason that end up kind of working. And I say kind of working because sometimes those plans don't work. When I started my journey going to Paul Mitchell and coming into hair school, I was already on D, probably E or F. If anybody watches or you guys follow baseball, in baseball you have 3 strikes and then you're out, right? So when I started my journey at Paul Mitchell, the school Orlando in 2005, I was on like strike 5 or 6. And I'm sharing that with you guys just so you know, if this is your plan B that you're working on right now, as a hairstylist or whatever career you're in, if this is your plan, C that you're working on right now as a hairstylist or whatever, plan you're on, doesn't mean that you're messed up. It means that you're probably right on track. Because I know for most people, they're not on, no one's really on plan A. There's a few people that are on plan A, but I mean, very few. You're talking less than 1%. Most people where they find success is going to be on plan B, C, D, E, F. There's the same thing. I mean, it's like that in life. I mean, look at relationships, look at businesses. First relationship didn't work out. How many people? I mean, there's a very small percent that the first person they ever date is the person that they marry, is the person that they stay with, is the person that, that's it. It's like life done. Most people are on person B, person C, person D, person E, to find the right one or the one, because there's always kind of evolutions going on. And so it's going to be the same way in business. It's going to be the same way in your career. It's going to be the same way, I think, really in relationships. You start to evolve. When I was 18, when I was coming into the world of adulthood officially, I mean, I pretty much was an adult at 11 and 12. I mean, I was kind of taking care of myself from that point on, but officially as an adult, my original plan and what I thought about when I was a kid, between martial arts, Karate Kid, war movies, Rambo, Commando, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to kick ass. I just wanted to be a commando and be a badass. And so that's what I did initially. And then when I got into that arena, I realized, maybe I could do more. Maybe I could do other things. But initially, right out of, high school, joining the Marine Corps, that's what I wanted to do. And I went straight into the infantry. They're like, well, you scored, pretty good on this test. You could pick any job. What do you think? What do you want to do? Instead of picking like a computers or, something that may have had some other benefits to me in the future, I'm like, I want to shoot shit and blow things up. What do I got to do? They're like, you don't even got to pass the test to do that. You want to go into the infantry. So I'm like, all right, throw me in there. That's where I'm going. So that was kind of it. So that was, you could say plan A. And then plan B, when I got out, I didn't really have a plan. Didn't really have a lot of options. Ended up, coming into the whole world of where I wanted to be a gangster, right? Then that was plan B, and then that didn't work out. Then I, go into plan C, in the restaurant business and bartending and serving, and thought, yeah, this is cool. Working in a restaurant, maybe own a restaurant. I don't know. Maybe, own a bar or something. So I'm doing that, right? Doing that. And then that didn't happen because all of a sudden then, paths get crossed and I end up, so plan D, then I'm like hair school, right? I'm in hair school. So how the hell did that happen? So, and this all occurred in a period of about 5 to 7 years from plan A to get to plan D. So if you're on plan C, D, or E, I just want you to know you're not necessarily off target. You're not screwing up. You're not making it. You're just doing what everybody does. You're like all of us trying to figure it out. And that's so true right now, especially because right now during the coronavirus, we're going into this corona economy that I've been talking a lot about. Plan C, D, and E, a lot of us may have to figure out, like not knowing, if your company is going to exist when you go back to it, not knowing if your position is going to exist when you go back to it, if you can go back to it, right? Not knowing if you're even going to be able to go back to it or when. So start developing a plan C, a plan D, a plan E. And if you're already on that, start developing the next one, because it's going to take a different type of plan and a different way of thinking to go into this next phase in the new corona economy. It's just not going to be the same. So I've been sharing a lot of that on StoryTime as I've been doing my openings and talking about different things that are just on the forefront before we, get into our chapter for the day. But those are some things I want to encourage you to know. And I want to give you the hope to know that if you're already on plan C and D, you're not screwed up. A lot of times we think, well, what am I doing wrong? I mean, sometimes you are doing things wrong. Sometimes you're jacking stuff up. But if you're on plan C or D, or you're not sure right now what the next move is, you're where the majority of people are and should be, because there's a lot of, we don't know going on. I mean, I speak with my salons every single day. We do a little happy hour at 5. We call it the live at 5. And we get on and we chat it up, and we, we talk about plans and contingencies and what ifs. We also talk about our new economy and things that we're building. We talk about our guest communications. We look at, the numbers. So we're looking at all these things, but there's still a little bit of a gray kind of ish part of it because we don't necessarily know. I was watching this morning, they were showing some mock-ups of like new planes, the seating arrangements, and like, it's like, well, you're going to have one seat here and then another seat pointing the other way and another seat pointing this way. Then they're like another one, they have a seat and then like a little plexi thing in between, all of the headrest. I mean, it's like some far out stuff, but I mean, people don't know, and you can only, have people sit in every other seat to keep a space in between, and how does that work? So now you go from 160 passengers to 80. And when you already were barely making or weren't making any money on 160, now you cut that in half. So what does that look like? Does the cost of that ticket go way up? Well, me as the person that's flying, can I now afford the new Corona economy ticket price? Same thing with a movie theater. Same thing with a salon. If you have 16 chairs and you got to take 8 chairs out, now you have, 8 left. Are you going to double the price of the haircut? Can people afford that? Are you going to double the price of the color? Can people afford that? These are things that as business owners, as industry experts are talking about, as employees have to consider, as consumers and patrons of these businesses have to consider. I mean, think about when you went out. If you're, we have salons in Austin and Tampa and around the Tampa Bay area. So some of the hot spots to go out. So if you're in Austin, there's 6th Street, there's the Domain. And I've got to go out to those places when I'm in town, spending time with the salon over there. And, you go in some of these places and it's super packed. And if you're trying to get to the bar to get a drink, it's like shoulder to shoulder, you're on top of people. Now with the Corona economy, are they going to be like, okay, we have to limit the capacity or have a certain number that once we hit it, we can't let anybody in. So you got the people with the clickers at the door. And then with that cuts revenue, but does that also raise prices? I mean, so there's going to be a lot of different adjustments. So I want you to start thinking about what your business looks like. If you're an individual, if you're an independent, if you're a business owner, or if you're not, getting in that ownership mentality already, to start thinking about that and wondering, like, what does that look like? How's that going to affect you and what you're going to be doing next? And then also thinking about, making a list, right? I love making lists, just like, because it's a mind dump, right? It gets stuff out of your head. You get stuff on paper. So a lot of times at night, I'll make a list about what I'm going to do the next day, or what I'm thinking about, or what challenges or problems I have to solve the next day. And that just kind of clears my head so I can get some decent rest at night. And then in the morning, I'll come back to that list. And sometimes I'll have figured things out while I was sleeping, because your subconscious is working. Your subconscious never gets a day off. It never gets a minute off. It never gets a second off. So it's working on my behalf overnight. I love that. Wake up with answers. I'm like, yes, I'm a genius, right? So mind dumping it, but doing it in the morning, looking at the list, doing it though, just making a list of like, what are like 5 to 10 things you would have done differently had you known? Leave it at that. Had you known the economy was going to get shut down, had you known your business was going to get shut down, your school was going to close, had you known, right? Maybe, from a school perspective, I would have thought about, virtual education. Maybe that was something that we talked about, being able to reach more people through online training, but we never implemented. As a hair care company, maybe that's something we thought about, online education, but we never implemented. Maybe I would have had more of an online strategy when it came to different products and services. Maybe I would have thought about setting up virtual consultations where people can do that through Zoom or through FaceTime or something like that. Maybe I would have thought about, my online, products. What do I sell? What can I sell? What should I sell? Maybe I would have thought about fill in the blank. There's lots of different things we would have thought about, coulda, shoulda, woulda. But what would you have done? Make a list of those things and see, okay, I would have done this if I had known. I would have done that if I had known. And what could I do now? So start thinking about what I could do now, what maybe I didn't do, but I wish I did, or I thought about, or could have thought about, but maybe now I'll go ahead and do it. And so those are things I'm constantly, in my head, kind of going through, things that I want to share with you guys, things that you can consider as we get into this new Corona economy, as we get into this new phase of what the Corona economy looks like, as we get into this new phase of going back to work, what that's going to look like, how that's going to look. It's going to be different, right? And it's going to be, but it's going to be okay, right? It's just we're all just going to be adjusting to it. So what would I have done if I had known that the Corona economy was gonna hit? I would have subscribed to Netflix a lot sooner. I think that it was like 16 million new subscribers to Netflix. over the first quarter. So January, February, and March. I wonder why, right? Because March, everybody ended up being at-home everything. I'm an at-home teacher. If you got kids, you're an at-home cook, you're an at-home cleaner, you're an at-home husband, you're an at-home wife, you're an at-home hairstylist, you're an at-home barber, you're an at-home whatever. And just brainstorming though on some things you would have done, ideas and things that, I think about. I was thinking yesterday, even because they were talking about, hair salons and barbershops being, how are you going to practice social distancing, keeping 6 feet in between you and the people around you if you're doing hair? It's not going to happen. So you're either going to have to say, I know that there is potentially a risk of a spread of corona. I can get tested. My staff can all get tested. And before we open our salon up and be 100%, free, we know everybody in the salon is cleared. They've either had corona and gotten better or don't have it. So we all get tested. Then we go to work. We wear gloves. We wear a mask, even though we don't want to do either of those two things. But can we require every single guest to show us like their ID? I'm a corona-free guest, before they come in? I don't think so. I don't think we can. Can we ask them all to get tested if it's available? Yes. I think most people would want to get it because they want to know if they either had corona and have antibodies potentially, or if they had it, or if they have it, because that's the thing. A lot of people have it and they just don't know it. So we could do all of those things. Ask people to get tested before they come in the salon. If you feel sick, we're going to ask you to wait at least 2 weeks since you felt sick or were sick to come in the salon. All of our staff, 100% have been tested. We've got gloves, we've got masks on, we're ready to roll. We sanitized, we spread the chairs out, we did everything. The thing that we cannot do in our business right now is keep 6 feet away from the customers and the people that we're serving, right? So there's inherently gonna be some level of risk, but we're gonna be, that's always gonna be the case. If we're gonna be doing what we're doing, there's gonna be some level of risk. But we're gonna do everything in our power to mitigate and minimize the risk, but there will be some level. There's just no way. But I was listening to, the talking heads, talking about this and that, and they were talking about tattoo shops. And I was thinking like, for a tattoo, you're just like a hairstylist, just like a massager, right on top of people. But I was like, if I were a tattoo artist, I'd be right now during the coronavirus, instead of me, like I'm selling products and tools and, safe at home, non-professional color that we can sell to our guests without breaking any laws or breaking any boundaries. So those are things that I can do. Can't sell virtual haircuts. We are selling virtual hugs. They're actually free on our website. We have virtual hugs for sale. Those are things that we can do. But as a tattoo artist, right, temporary tattoos. As a tattoo artist, I would be selling temporary tattoos. Maybe, to raise some money. Maybe, I'll design your tattoo, create a temporary tattoo and send it to you, and you can wear it. And then, it's going to be, half the price. Or if you buy a temporary tattoo, you also get a discount on your actual tattoo when we're able to open back up. But just like brainstorming ideas, there's lots of things that we can do. We just have to unlock our mind and think outside the box, and think outside the box that the box is in, because the box is also in a box. Sometimes it's outside, but sometimes it's think under the box, above the box, in the box. But just brainstorming different ideas. So I'd be selling temporary tattoos. I've seen some of the restaurants get creative. They're like, here's the dish, but maybe people aren't coming in and they're not wanting to do takeout. So maybe if I was a restaurant, I get the ingredients and I sell you, this is the meal. These are the ingredients we use to make this meal. You can buy that and then we can deliver it, to your house. or you can come and pick up those ingredients and they're all fresh. And then we'll give you some recipes and you can then go and, have some fun at home cooking up the meal. And maybe, yeah, it's a little bit, I don't know if it's less money or more money. I mean, that's for the restaurateur to figure out. But those are other things, because I went to a couple places and they're like, yeah, nobody's really doing takeout. I mean, it's the same menu, it's the same price. It's people are maybe not wanting to get out or go out, or people are like, well, I can save money cooking at home. And so then maybe it's like, all right, well, maybe I can send to your home the ingredients and you can still cook at home, but you can buy it from us, because now I've got this restaurant with all this food that if I don't cook, it's going to, or sell somehow, it's going to go bad. So that's something for restaurants, thinking about that. I know if I was a restaurant, I'd be selling the ingredients. I'd be like in some of the recipes. I mean, what's going to happen when you open your restaurant back up? I mean, yeah, some people, like if they were busy working and were coming to the restaurant, it was to have some fun, to go out. They know they're going to pay more, but they're also not having to cook at home. But now with people just being at home, they're like, yeah, do I need to pick up this from that restaurant? Yeah, if I could support them, but I also could buy 3 or 4 times as much and Google some recipes. So you'd have to make it worth their while. But, unless that food's going to go bad, I don't know, it's sitting there for 6, weeks, 5 weeks, 7 weeks, however long it might be sitting there. So thinking of different ideas, brainstorming different ways that you can create some economy. This is the Corona economy. So this is the think outside the box. This is the try things you haven't tried economy. This is the what if it doesn't work? Oh, well, no one's going to know economy. This is the, do it anyway, try it anyway economy. This is the time for you to push the envelope and really consider, and I put a kind of a false scenario on myself, which I mean, it may end up not even being false, but in the beginning of all this, I was like thinking, what could I do? And I'll start brainstorming. I'm like, well, what if we don't open until June or until July or until August, even though originally we thought we were going to be back in action on March 31st. And then it went to, now it's like April, and then it went to, I think, April 13th. Right now it's April 22nd. And we're shooting for May 1st, which may not even be a reality. But that other false reality is kind of looking a little bit more like it's got more potential to it. But thinking in that way forces me to kind of put more pressure on my mind and my idea laboratory. And also, sharing with my team and collecting ideas to think in that way to get the creative juices flowing. And like, no, this is only a couple of weeks until it's not, right? Until it's not. And so you have to push yourself. You're going to have to push yourself, and you're going to have to really stretch and get your mind moving. And so when I get to that place, then I start coming up with ideas that seem a little out there, maybe far-fetched, maybe a little crazy, but that's usually about where the good ideas are. They're on the edge of, yeah, that's cool. And then they're on there's the other edge of, that'll never work, or that shit's crazy. When you get to that other edge, that's where you're going to find a lot of great ideas. So you got to push yourself out there, and you got to project yourself out to that distant future and then work your way back. It's called reverse engineering. So that's my opening, and that's kind of a great segue into the chapter that we're going to focus on today. So we're reading from Your First Year in Salon Ownership, Open for Business, we hope soon, right? And as I'm going through this, I'm kind of editing it in real time and bringing it up to speed on things and adapting it to the current environment. The chapters, we started with, we did the preface and introduction a couple episodes ago, and then we went into the why is salon ownership for you. That was yesterday. Today I'm going to go into chapter number 2, which is starting with the end in mind. Then we have the other chapters. 3 is systems, 4 is the numbers, 5 is hiring process, 6 is career paths, 7 is you only have 2 hands. 8 is financing and construction. 9 is key relationships. 10 is growth and expansion. 11 is the what if chapter. What if you do make it? And then there's bonus material and other ideas that I had post, and that's kind of in the very end. But I want to go into the second chapter today. Normally I'm not reading these in order, and you don't have to. You can kind of bounce around. But this second chapter was starting with the end in mind, because that's where, I was kind of talking about projecting yourself out there, getting out into the future. So starting with the end in mind is chapter 2 in your first year in salon ownership. And like all chapters, we're going to start with a quote. You don't start building a home until you have it finished. Anonymous. And so that quote, I want you to think about that quote. If you've ever built a home or built anything, you don't just start, right? You actually design it on paper, you plan it out, blueprints, look at the area, look at the space, you design it. And then once you have it kind of completed there, then you actually go to work on building it. Starting with the end in mind, chapter 2. So let's get started. After we get finished. Wait, what? What the hell is that supposed to mean? Easier said than done? Finishing your business design is a critical first step. Seeing your business as an end product before you begin takes vision. It began as just a thought, a small idea that got me excited. How the hell am I supposed to see it when it's completed? What does that even mean anyway? Okay, let's start there. What is a completed vision? Take a new home, for example. Before the plot of land is ever touched, before the first tractor is on site, moving dirt from here to there, the house has gone through a series of processes. So many things have already been considered and then reconsidered again and again to get to this point. The crew didn't just show up one day and decide, you know what? We should build a house. Fire up the tractor and let's start moving some dirt and see what happens. You know that's not how it happened. Unfortunately, a lot of people are starting their businesses like that. And before you know it, they're down to their last straw, packing up and going home. With their ego barely intact, feeling like a loser. It doesn't have to be that way though. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of losing going on in the business community, but some could be prevented. Looking at the statistics for business startups will give you a reality for the sum I'm talking about. Right now, stats show that about 97% of all new business ventures end in ruins. You better believe 100% of them started thinking they were going to make it. They were going to be in the top 3%. But after a year, that's not what happens. Now, of that 3% that do make it to their 5th year, before they start high-fiving, better look at the rest of the news. Around 95% of that 3% that made it to the 5 years will fail in the next 5 years. Yikes. Did you think you were safe? Why am I sharing these stats with you? It's simple. You better have a clear vision for what your company looks like in the future if you plan on making it there. Here are a few things to consider while building your vision. An acronym for this process is what I call SLOT, S-L-O-T. S, size. How big will your company be when it's finished? How many locations? What states will you operate in? How many people will work in each location? What will be the size of each location? How much revenue will each location be generating? L, layout. Having a layout for your business is critical. The layout isn't just the look and feel, it's also the traffic pattern you design that you want the guests to flow through. Think about a Starbucks. When you come in the door, where you start in line, then placing your order, on to picking up your order, that's a traffic pattern, and it's all planned in advance. You need to think of your salon the same way. Where does the guest go first, second, third, and so on? I'd recommend laying all this out on paper. Also, go visit different businesses and get a feel for their traffic patterns. How efficient or inefficient do their guests flow through the sales process? I just like to hang out in some businesses and observe. With your layout, you want to create as little friction as possible. Less friction equals more sales. Oh, operations. Next up is operations. Operations entails what happens at each stage of the guest flow throughout. You want to give some thought to what needs to happen before the next thing can happen. Like spelling a word, if a certain letter is out of place, you may not get the result you want. Did you guys catch what I just did there with the word place? Your brain may have read that word correctly anyway, because you've got tons of experience reading, listening to, and speaking the English language. So if you guys are listening or you're watching, which I didn't even realize I did that, but I guess that's what I did because I already misspell enough words without even trying. But with the word place, misspelling and switching up a couple letters, when your brain sees it, as long as that first letter and the last letter are in the right spot, your brain can like literally just figure that out because it knows how that works. But being able to have, the flow of your operations and the process that this happens and that happens and this happens, that's really what it's all about. Back to the story. But a new guest who's experiencing your business for the first time needs to be guided, as well as your staff. Having your operations documented and clearly defined will help them deliver the product consistently. In my company, we've created an operations manual which contains all of the guiding processes and systems to successfully deliver the 1.0 experience. This may be some of your most important work, so take the time to do it. The T, talent. Lastly, in crafting your vision, we've got to talk about talent. Having a strategy for obtaining, training, and retaining talent is critical. After all, without your team of talent to deliver the end result, then you're on your own, or essentially out of business. This is one of the hardest areas to create a vision for a number of reasons, mainly because of how dynamic it is. Unlike traffic flow and processes, talent is human-based, which means you're dealing with different emotions, personality types, and abilities. Here are my tips on crafting your vision for talent. Have a demographic you're looking for. My demographic, for example, looks like this. Our ideal new hire is a recent graduate with less than 1 year of experience, someone who is coachable, has a great image, and a great attitude. Starting with that is the foundation, and it gives us parameters as to what we're looking for. Of course, there are always exceptions to the rule. We've hired outside of these parameters and have had some great success stories, but overall, our long-term and most successful team members have come from sticking to our vision for talent as stated previously. Getting talent, though, is just the beginning. Having a plan on what to do with them once you get them is the harder stuff. Premeditating your training schedule, compensation plan, and career path, which we'll talk about more in a later chapter, are keys in growing your talent pool. Finally, my final thought on talent. If you plan to adopt an approach like we have in wanting to pick an apple from the tree and not the barrel, then I'd suggest you start developing a relationship with a local school that are producing said talent. In closing, starting with the end in mind is just that, planning the biggest parts of your business first, then starting your business. Things can and will change along the way, but at least with this approach, you'll know where you're going. So that's starting with the end in mind. A couple of things I want to touch on there, which you heard. I didn't really say, like you have to have this well-crafted business plan. I mean, I know I was guilty of going to the bookstore, grabbing a How to Create a Business Plan book when I started my business. And I probably still have that book. I don't even know if I really read it or looked, but one of those things, it's like when you're starting a business, I didn't on that, that whole note as I was going through that part of the chapter, that's not where I focused on. I wasn't like focusing on that. So if you keep in mind slot, so think about slot, right? The S is size, L layout, O operations, and T talent. Having a vision for that. You're not going to have the intricacies. When I went into that whole business plan book and I started working on that, I started looking at it, and it's like teaching how to create this business plan. That's an Excel sheet. You know, if you're good with Microsoft Word, you're good with, you know, creating an Excel sheet, create one, you know, but you don't need one. I mean, you can create one. Projections, like bigger numbers you might have, like, okay, I mean, you're going to have to know, you're going to have to know, yes, what your expenses are, you know, when you project revenue, but I'm talking about vision, long-term. I'm talking about building, what's the company going to look like when it's finished, not, you know, developing a plan for what's going to happen in the next 6, 8, 12 months. So starting with the end in mind is when the company's finished. So when I looked at starting, you know, the salons, you know, and starting 1.0, the vision, when I went through slot, the size, you know, was 100 locations. The size was having a location in every city where there's a Paul Mitchell school, right? The size is the end result when it's finished, not what's going to happen in the first year. And then the layout. I use Starbucks. There's plenty of examples out there. I know in Florida, there's a gas station, you know, called Wawa. There's a company called Wawa. I don't know, you know, where everybody's from. I got people all over if you're on Facebook or Instagram, but you know, their layout, how they have it set up. I mean, yes, the gas pumps, I mean, the gas pumps. Those are pretty much the same, but thinking about how they have their entrances to the parking lot, thinking about how they have their doors set up when you go in the store, thinking about the flow through the store from walking in, where they have the coffee laid out, where they have that little kitchen area thing going on, to all the other stuff you can pick up, to then when you come and check out and how you flow out the door. All that's pre-thought out. Starbucks, great example, how you flow through your business. So I don't care if you're opening a hair salon, a barber shop, a gym, a chiropractic practice, a law firm, anywhere, a retail store, you're going to have people coming into your business. I want you to be thinking about that. The L, the layout, how it's going to flow. Traffic pattern is huge. You know, traffic pattern. A lot of times in my businesses, I'll go and I'll sit where the guest would be sitting. I'll sit in the chair that the guest would be in. I'll sit in the, you know, our waiting area. You know, some people call it a reception area. We call it a living room. So I'll go sit in the living room and I'll see what the guest is seeing. I'll go sit in the stylist chair and I'll see what they're seeing from that perspective. I'll go lay down in the sink and I'll see what I see. So the traffic pattern, how you come in the business, how you go flow through the experience, and how you exit the business. Those are things I'm talking about. So when you think about slots, you get size, you have location. Operations are huge, right? Down to, like, we have a thing that, you know, what's going on, Natasha? How you doing? We have a thing that we look at. We want to make our systems. We take it down to like a granular like level, like looking at as far as all going down all the way to how do you fold a towel in your business? How do you, like, you know, like, and that might seem like something that's it's like one of those things where you're like, I don't really, I mean, that seems a little, you know, too much, but it's not too much because it's really a metaphor. You know, so when you look at, you know, some of our Paul Mitchell schools, like I've got some Paul Mitchell school people on here. I've got some people that are directors on here, some people that are owners. Natasha just jumped on here. What's going on? People that, you know, when you look at our schools, like there's a consistency and a flow that happens through there. And so if you take it to that level, in a lot of our schools, the reason why they're successful is because they figured out like these processes and these systems, you know, so we can then duplicate that. Now, if that's your vision, if you're just doing, even if you're just doing one, if you're like, well, when my company is completely built, and I want you to go 10 years, 20 years out, I'm going to have one location. It's going to be blah, 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 blah. That's okay too. But what does it look like when it's done? Starting with the end in mind is about going out there and looking at the future company and then seeing, okay, this is what I'm going to need in place. You know, a lot of salons, when it comes to systems, I know, you know, even when I started, it was like, a system, right? It's, you have it written down, an operation. Okay, it's written down. Okay, and I typed it. I printed it out on a piece of paper. I laminated it. And the system, the very first one, the operation, my whole thesis, it was about towels. It was, please wash white towels and black towels separately. I taped it up on the side of the dryer, and I'm like, I'm an official company now. I got a system. I got a process. But then it was like, well, what about this process? And then what about that process? And then what do I do if this happens? And how do I, so then it became, and so it's what started in our company with just one page of some stuff is now an 80-page operations manual that all of our salon operators and our owners can use so they can be successful. But having that vision, when I really started to cast out and think about the company when it was finished with 100 locations, if you go to that point, then you come back to, I had one location that I was just trying to get off the ground. That takes it in a whole new direction. That's a whole new approach. That's a whole new everything. Because when I go to that point, then I'm like, okay, I want to write out, like, what's somebody going to say when they answer the phone? The whole conversation, which turns into a 3-page script. What's somebody going to say when a guest walks in the door? From the tour, what's somebody going to say as they take the guests through the door? You think the people at Starbucks just are coming up with whatever they want to say? No, not when you're going to have thousands of different stores and you want consistency throughout your organization. So depending on where you're wanting to go, depending on what you're wanting to accomplish, depending on, where that company, what that company looks like in the future, when it's finished. And that's the big thing about starting with the end in mind. Not can you plug numbers into an Excel sheet and make, everything add up. And then it does the formula and says, well, if I grow by 10% and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's all great. But when it's done, what is it going to look like? So that's where that chapter takes you. And that chapter is getting into starting with the end in mind. So remember that SLOT. SLOT, the size, the layout, the operations, and the talent. And the big thing with the talent for me, like if you think about that vision of hiring people, in that, under a year experience coming from beauty school, if that's the goal, then yes, in the future, knowing that we are Paul Mitchell Focus Salon, so we have Paul Mitchell schools all over the country. So developing that relationship. Right now with 4 locations, I'm going out to all these schools every single year, traveling to 5, 10, 15, 20 different cities, to spread the word, to build relationships, to establish some foundation, to establish, essentially an army. It may be even a silent army at this point, but guess what happens? If that vision that I'm going for, when I go to, wherever I go, right? Oklahoma, California, New Hampshire, Wyoming, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Washington State, anywhere, Texas, Louisiana, North Carolina, South Carolina, right? When I go to a city or a state to open up shop, because I've been traveling there and I've built up some goodwill and I've been, going to these places, it's going to be able to help propel and move that vision forward. And so that's what vision is about. Going a lot further out, not just going out 3 months, 1 month, 1 year, 2 years. You got to push yourself out to the completion of your business. And then you can work back to where you're at now and the reality that you're in now. But you got to push yourself out there to see, what does your business look like when it's finished? And once you got a good vision for that, then what are the things I need to do today if I end up getting there? Because it's still a big if, right? Everything's a big if. There's companies right now that started, 3 months ago that are now like, we're now over, because no one knew, right? The coronavirus was going to come and rock the world. I've been using that analogy, like the coronavirus picked the world up like a snow globe and just shook it, and everyone's like, what the hell is going on? Or trying to figure it out. So no one knew. But if you should arrive at that destination out there in the future, wouldn't you like to be arriving prepared? and not so shocked. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I did it. No, like I had this vision, back in 2009 when I started the company. So in 2029, if I arrive there, I'm not shocked. I'm not like, oh my God, what do I do? Because instead of learning how to fly the plane, in the air, right? Which you may have to do at some point, but learning how before you get off the ground, knowing that, hey, if I'm going to fly across the country, what would I need to know? And my destination, if I want to fly from Florida and I want to fly to, London, England, what do I need to do now to prepare myself for that final outcome, that final destination? So those are things with starting with the end in mind in that chapter, some of the key takeaways and the ways that I'm thinking about it now. Developing that relationship for your talent, looking at your layout of your location, how the guest and the traffic pattern is going to go. Even if you're an online business, I've been building an online. We have pmtakehome.com. We just did a launch party on Sunday night, huge online party, 5 hours long, to celebrate that. But with pmtakehome.com, I got to go in and design a website and learn how to do it. Didn't have a clue what I was doing, but doing it and reiterating it and redesigning. But I thought the same way, traffic pattern. I thought the flow, how people are going to flow through it. I thought big picture, where's this going to go? This is going to replace all of our, in salon sales. What is this going to look like? If it's doing that, what capabilities does it need? So it's the same process, using slot, size, right? Layout, operations, and then talent, and listing people that are going to work with the online store that are going to be doing product education demo, which is my salon team. So those things still can apply no matter what the business is. You might have to just tweak it a little bit. So hopefully you guys got some good information out of this chapter, starting with the end in mind from your first year in salon ownership. This is the second book we're going through. I'll be back here tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I do this Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So no matter where you are, set your alarm clock. You can set it for 8:59 if you want. We'll wake up, grab your coffee, come join me for Story Time with Sunny D. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Instagram. We're doing the podcast. If you missed any of these or you want to take Story Time with you on the go, you can check it out on the YFYI podcast. Just go to yfyipodcast.com and you can hear all the episodes, and you can rewatch episodes if you want to take the video content and consume it that way, either on my Facebook profile or my Facebook page. Just look for Sunny D. Profile, I think, is Sunny D-E-E, because I got to put those 2 E's because they won't let me just have a D. What's up with that, Facebook? We don't know. That's their policy. That's their system. So I'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Thanks for the comments, the questions, the feedback. And if you've been joining me over these past 13 episodes, waking up every morning, I appreciate you. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Instagram, it's been real. Talk to you guys later. Bring a friend when you come back tomorrow. Bring them, and we'll hang out again. We'll do this again. And that one. And Facebook, where would we be without our face-to-face book? Thank you guys for hanging out. Thanks for being here. Tune in tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Share this, share this, share this. Invite your friends, invite your colleagues, invite your salons, invite whoever. We're going to be talking some more first year in, and some more salon ownership, some businesses, some more Corona economy, some more everything tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I'll see you guys then.